and welcome. This is False Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm your host, Johnny Karate Buhler, staff writer, fansided.com.
That's not, wait. In your karate, you must have messed up, Bueller. That's not your title anymore, brother.
No.
That's the lead writer of fansided.com, John Buhler. Congratulations, brother.
Thanks, man. It means a lot. Yes, I no longer break coffee pots with ramen in it. I'm no longer a shoe shinist. I'm a prop who sings songs to kids, but also I write really good content. Yeah, I got a promotion, guys. This is great. But yes, this giggling man you're hearing back here is a man who had me at Meat Tornado, who doesn't eat the food that his food eats and gets most of his stuff and food at Food and Stuff. Cody Williams, content director, fansided.com. Welcome back from New Orleans. We are now officially in football offseason completely. How are you?
I want all of the bacon and eggs that you have. And I'm doing good, man. It's been a long week. Super Bowl week always drains it out of me, and being in New Orleans only amplified that. So been a long week, but happy to be back. Thank you for holding it down. I missed doing the pod. I hope you missed having me on the pod.
I did because it's just easier when you're on the show because
It is.
it's not like it's half an episode, but it's like 3/4 episodes, so we get
Yeah.
1.5 episodes. Just these are the shows that I like the best, where we go in there, we're like, I don't know what segments we're going to talk about. It's probably going to be dumb, but it's going to be great, and it's going to be false start. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we have some stuff on deck today. I wouldn't say any of it is like groundbreakingly important, but it's going to be a good time.
no, but it's going to be Parks and Recreation themed.
Yes, it is.
As you guys may or may not know, I've recently recovered from the flu, and the Arizona State podcast and I basically watched every episode of Parks and Rec because, well, you can't really go anywhere when you have the flu and you don't want to get people sick. So that's what
Yeah.
we did.
You built your health back up with the good building company, and that's what we really want.
With Ron, Don, John, and Juan Swanson, apparently.
That's right.
You worked at the Parks Department.
High key though, I'm not, I don't feel bad spoiling it because Parks and Rec has been over for like a decade now. But like Ron's fine in the series finale when Ron is just in the national forest. That's what I hope my retirement looks like. I just want to be out on a boat in the middle of the national forest. That sounds great. Let's book that right now.
Yes, I think that sounds incredible. Obviously, I don't want a bunch of triplets at the same time.
No, God, no.
Putting Rachel Drash through absolute hell.
Right.
But also, I don't really want to be in government, even though I feel like I've got nothing to hide.
Yeah, that's right.
The show's fantastic. I never actually watched the second half of it. I kind of got done with it when I was like 20 something because Leslie and Ben was just way too sappy for me, but I couldn't handle that as a 23-year-old, so I moved on.
It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. But no, like I start to finish, especially as an adult, like it is. I disagree with this opinion, but I see the validity in it. A lot of people these days, the popular like hot take has been that Parks and Rec is actually better than The Office. Again, I'm an Office guy, so I can't quite get there, but it is on par at least.
They're both really good shows. I like the fact that people who watch Parks and Rec don't make it their entire personality, and
That's
that's
true.
probably the
Very
worst
true.
part about The Office. And although you mentioned the NC State podcast hates Tom Haverford, there's a lot of people out there who hate Pam Beasley.
Oh yeah, I mean there are a lot of hateable people. Like another one of my friends has a hot take that Jim Halpert's horrendous, and again I can't quite get there, but I do see the point in it. He does bully a coworker relentlessly for 9 seasons. So
He bullies the equivalent of me, Dwight Schrute. So yeah, Dwight Schrute slaps. Stanley Hudson slaps. Kevin Malone slaps,
oh yeah,
and Karen Filippelli really made the show.
she was there for sure. She showed up.
She was there, and she was Ann Perkins. But let's get started with our first and 15 with some treat yourself.
That's
It's really hard to say congrats without sounding sarcastic. Let's do some do Host or do Host to start. Cody, do Host or do Host? Will we ever see a three-peat in the college football playoff or the Super Bowl? This is our new lead topic because obviously with the Super Bowl being yesterday and the Kansas City Chiefs, for lack of a better word, got their ass absolutely kicked by the
Hmm.
Philadelphia Eagles. They did not three-peat. We saw a couple years ago, my beloved Georgia Bulldogs did not three-peat, did not have the opportunity to make the playoff, but it's very interesting. So I'll let you have the floor. Where are you leaning on this side of the argument?
First off, let me say I'm glad that we're saying it's really hard to say congrats without sounding sarcastic because that's absolutely how I feel about the Eagles winning the Super
Yes, I know
Bowl.
you do.
So very quite fitting. I'm gonna go Duhas with two S's just because across all sports, three-peats are rare. Like it's not something we see a lot. Like there's a reason that the Bulls and the Lakers of the 80s and 90s are like held in such high regard because it's near impossible to be able to do that. Like three straight championships. And then we were saying at the end of the college football playoff about how the 12 team playoff is definitely, and as it continues to expand, whether it's 14, 16, however big it goes, it's going to become more and more like March Madness. And you look back, there's only been 7 instances of back-to-back champions in college basketball when it comes to March Madness. The so that makes it hard to believe that there's ever going to be a three-peat if we're comparing this to March Madness. And on top of that, the other prevailing narrative that I think we came away from this past season with was how much parity there is now in college football with the way NIL has leveled the playing field, the transfer portal has leveled the playing field. It's just hard to see like everything breaking right for a team 3 years in a row to where they can go on that run.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Du Hast, two S's. You can look at the other sports and everything like that. I think it's much easier if it's possible again to do it in the NBA and the NHL. We've obviously seen the Celtics win a bunch before the Lakers. I don't know if the Warriors ever three-peated.
I
Bulls did
don't think
twice.
so.
And then if you look at what the NHL, I mean, what the Islanders won four in a row in the 80s. I think maybe
Mhm.
Edmonton won a bunch, maybe what the Canadians back in the 50s. But like at that point, you're dealing with a sport where there's only five and six people on the floor of the ice at a time, and they can be more impactful. And on those teams, you have like all-time players, like
Right.
who like the team's just drafted insanely well, and basically everybody on the floor at that time is going to like Toronto or Springfield because of how great they are. And I think with football, because it is a collision sport, it's a gladiator sport, there are injuries that happen,
Mhm.
coaching attrition happens. And I think, well, in the NFL, you have the Chiefs and Eagles will have the 31st and 32nd pick in the
Mhm.
NFL draft. I also kind of feel that like there's teams that are like it's easier to be the hunter than the hunted. Everyone's kind of gunning for you in some capacity. And with it, I didn't know that fact about March Madness, but like it's a gauntlet now.
Mhm.
And all it takes is one slip up at any point, like in an Olympiad, for it not to happen. I
Yeah.
just don't think it's in anybody's favor. I mean, you look at college football, like you've had people win three and four in a row. I mean, what Alabama won like in 09, 10, and
Mhm.
11, or
Yeah.
09, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
Osborne, Nebraska won like 94, 95, 97.
Yeah.
The last three-peat was Minnesota in like the 50s or 60s. Like it's just not happening. I don't see how like if Georgia couldn't do it, like I don't think anybody's ever gonna do it.
No, 100%. And like I think the Chiefs, which we, obviously missed out on their three-peat on Super Bowl Sunday, like they're a good example of why it's hard in the game of football to really even like comprehend that. Like the fact that the Chiefs got as close as they did is a testament to the Chiefs and what they have going there, honestly, because you look at everything that they've lost over the past few years. You talk about, I understand that this was before the three-peat, but you lose Tyreek Hill, you have to you're forced to trade him because you can't hand out that contract extension. Okay, you have to kind of piecemeal wide receiver together. Okay, then you start losing guys like L'Jarius Sneed. Then you start losing like you just like the attrition that you see just because when you're really good, you've got to start paying guys. And like that's the way it goes. And in college football, it's somewhat similar to that in terms of NIL because if a dude's not playing, then he's going to go somewhere else. He's going to take the money and go somewhere else, kind of the same way you would in free agency. Like, if you're not going to pay me what I'm worth or play me like what I'm worth, then I'm going to go somewhere else. And so that affects the depth in college football. It affects the depth on the Chiefs. And like, that's just kind of what you're going to see continuously. Like, I'm not like, we will probably see back to back champions in college football in the college football playoff era, like, even in the 12 team, 16 team, whatever it is. But three-peat, the attrition that you're going to have over that time with the way college football is set up right now, it's really difficult to see happening.
Yeah, like I think Ohio State could repeat next year. I think
Yeah.
that I don't have a definitive. team that where I'm leaning for who's going to win the national title next year. All I know is that Ohio State, Penn State, and Texas are locks. Even though
Yeah.
got some thoughts of well, I've got some thoughts on Texas. We'll talk about here in a little bit, but I think it really comes down to like coaching attrition.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
Ohio State's losing Jim Knowles to Penn State, and then you're losing Chip Kelly to the Raiders. You effectively have to promote Brian Hartline from within because otherwise he's just going to leave. Like if
Hmm.
Scott Satterfield fails or Luke Fickell fails, that's probably the first name I'd call.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And but like, yeah, I mean, the coaching attrition, like Jim Knowles played a big role. Like the defense at Ohio State wasn't bad, but it was a problem at the level that Ohio State's trying to play out prior to Jim Knowles. And then you talk about Brian Hartline OC. There's a reason they moved on from that quickly after he was the OC, like the ostensible OC for 1 year. Like there's a reason that moved away from that quickly is because I'm not sure he's quite cut out for the role. So like when you have that attrition, like that's another thing that has helped the Chiefs tremendously is that yes, they turned over offensive coordinators, but like we know Andy Reid's the offensive coordinator. Spags has continued to be there. And like that coaching continuity is a big reason why they've been as good as they have been. Same with the Patriots with Belichick when they were doing that. But you want to talk about like we saw how good the Patriots were for 2 decades with the Brady Belichick era, and they didn't three-peat. And if that's going to be the case, like that's with Brady taking a pay cut basically every single year. Like if it didn't happen then, it's not going to happen again. And like not only did they not three-peat, there was a 10-year gap between Tom Brady Super Bowls. Like
Right.
being great at that level, at a championship level for that sustained of a period is nearly impossible.
We're talking a little bit about like, you got to pay somebody like, I don't know what Mahomes makes, 55 million a year, 65, something like that.
Yeah.
They've been talking about Brock Purdy getting 60. And if you pay him more than 45, you're never going to a Super Bowl again,
Yeah.
49ers. It's like, that's why I'd like to say Mahomes and Reed are special, but Reed's like in his mid 60s, Spags is
Mhm.
in his mid 60s. How much longer are they going to keep doing this?
Yeah.
Who do they promote from within? Who's the head coach? Like I don't even know. You want to give that to Matt Nagy? Are you kidding
You
me?
do not. You do not want to give it to Matt Nagy. I promise you that. No, absolutely not. And
I
like
pro
I do think that, I mean, I guess it's always hard to know when a coach wants to hang it up because, like, you have someone like Pete Carroll, who was the oldest coach in the NFL when he got relieved by the Seahawks, and now he's back in it, coming back to the Raiders. So, like, who knows how long these guys want to coach? But Andy Reid does seem like a guy who might be happy going off into the sunset pretty soon.
Yeah, like I'm a Braves fan. Like Brian Sticker's probably got about another year or two, and then it'll
Mhm.
probably be either Matt Tuiasosopo or hopefully Walt Weiss. That would probably be the direction I would hope for.
I hope it's not Tuiasosopo, just so we don't have to write that out every time.
I mean, he was such a downgrade from Ron Washington. Like, couldn't read the walls. He's like, I've never been to this park before, and it's like,
Just hire Wash. Just be like, hey Wash, are you done with the Angels because they're terrible? Go ahead and come back to Atlanta.
I'm sure there's some software where you can basically play how the ball hits off of Citizens Bank Park's outfield. Like, you should be able to do that. And
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could go find that on Baseball Savant right now, and I'm not being paid by an MLBT.
no, 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 sir. But I guess to kind of like tie a bow on it from, I guess what I saw last night is the Eagles just had a decided advantage in the trenches.
Yeah,
Maybe my Atlanta Falcons should draft Georgia players. That would probably be really good. But it's like the last time the Chiefs got their ass kicked in the Super Bowl, it's the same sort of thing with the Buccaneers, with like Shaquille Barrett and everything with Todd Bowles' defense. Like there will be a position group that emerges every couple of years in football, college or pro, where it's just like there's just not much you can do with that. Like I would say like the 21 Georgia defensive line,
yeah,
probably the 2011 defense for Alabama was that too, 2019 passing game for LSU.
yeah. I was about to say the wide receiver group there, where you've got Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
You talk probably about the backfield if you want to throw Weiner, Lindell White, and Reggie Bush for the USC.
Hmm.
It presents itself where like there's something where like they just can't do it, and it comes down to recruitment. Like, yeah, you're hitting like the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, of the world are still recruiting like top five, top eight classes, which I think is what you need to win in the playoff era. But you will miss. Not all five
Yeah,
stars are going to pan out. I mean, look, that's kind of what brought the Swift into Matt Brown at Texas. Just a lot of guys thought they were hot ass and they weren't.
no, 100%. Like, and I think that in the transfer portal era, like that only amplifies the chance that you can miss because like sometimes there's a reason a 5 star or a 4 star wasn't working out at his previous home. Like you can recruit the recruiting pedigree, but that doesn't mean that's never a guarantee. And now you're getting more bites of that apple. That's only going to increase your miss percentage.
100%. And I mean, you gotta fill out all this like stupid paperwork. And I hate doing that. And that's why I have the toes that I have here. Let's move on to our next topic with some good bull. Yes, Deion Sanders, a man with 8 toes who used to have 10, now has one of the best running backs of all time, one of the best players of our childhood. Marshall Faulk is coming aboard as their running backs coach.
Mhm.
This is significant. I mean, they've already got Warren Sapp on staff. They've still got Pat Shermer. I think that like we do expect Colorado to pull back a little bit just because you're losing the Sanders brothers and Travis Hunter. But I think bringing in people that like you can just say I'm Marshall Faulk in someone's living room, like that's going to help Colorado sustain excellence, being able to recruit nationally because they have to because they don't have the players in state.
No, 100%. And like it gives you national cachet to be like, hey, you remember the greatest show on turf? Like, I mean, a lot of these recruits probably
No.
don't, but you can show them some highlight film and let them know, like, yeah, I'm a Hall of Famer. I'm that dude. And I also think that the other thing that really intrigues me about Marshall Faulk is like he was kind of the first like hybrid back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he played the game in a very all-around way that we hadn't really seen, and that's why he was so revolutionary for the game in terms of what he was able to do out of the backfield. And I think that might give him an advantage as a coach because he is so multi-talented, he was so multi-talented as a player. He's not going to be someone who's like, I'm going to coach you my way to play running back. Like I can see him like finding the player and finding what they're best at and getting that best out of them and being kind of a chameleon in terms of a running backs coach. Like I think that's something that could be super valuable to Colorado.
Yes, I think he's like I don't know if he was like the first like running back, but like I think it might have been technically Roger Craig, but Marshall Faulk brought it to the mainstream. And
Yeah.
then my favorite running back of all time, LaDainian Tomlinson, like took it and ran.
Yeah, 100%.
And then after that, you've got guys like LaShawn McCoy. Now I'd
Hmm.
say Christian McCaffrey kind of fits that
Jamal
mold.
Charles a little bit as
Jamal
well.
Charles a little bit as well. Yeah, like just a guy who can kind of Ezekiel Elliott at his prime could kind of do that too.
Yeah. He was
Although,
once upon a time. Now
yeah,
I
so
could
it's
probably beat him in a 40-yard dash, but here we are.
gonna feed Zeke here. But you're bringing up a great point because it's the versatility. He can basically say, I can get you the NFL. I can show you how to be. Also, Colorado's based on being able to run the football. Their
Hmm.
their greatest player ever is the late Rashawn Salah.
Yeah.
And obviously, we know about the Bill McCartney era of how they ran like the wishbone back in the 80s and 90s. That's what Colorado football was prior to Joel Klatt coming in with Gary Barnett.
Yeah. 100%. No, I was about to mention Joel Klatt as are we disrespecting Joel Klatt as the greatest Colorado football player of all time? We're not.
No.
But like no, you're
Top
100%.
25, probably.
Yeah, he might be an honorable mention in the top 25, but he's there. Like he's sniffing around at
Yeah,
minimum.
yeah, he's like the Ronald Curry of or the David Green, if you will. That's probably the way I would say it.
There
That's
we
that's
go. I remember him fondly, but not an all-time great. Like I think like not to, crap all over Joel Klatt too much. But no, I'm with you. I think we're in lockstep that Colorado does probably pull back. Like I am a little worried about I my biggest concern is the Caden Salter fit, like honestly,
yeah.
and like I don't think he fits with Pat Shermer. At the same time, they do have a fallback option now with Juju Lewis coming in. So like if Caden Salter comes in and cannot run Pat Shermer's offense, or Pat Shermer can't cater an offense to Caden Salter, you do have another option there to turn to, and one that might be better for your future, quite frankly. So like Colorado is not as in bad of a spot as like when we were watching them early in the 2023 season and like they were running with Sean Lewis and they made the change to Pat Shermer, it was kind of like, man, that's kind of the only option they've got because it's Shador, Travis Hunter, and then a whole hell of a lot of question marks. They are not in the whole hell of a lot of question mark stage anymore. They've been recruiting, hitting the transfer portal hard enough to have like the actual depth of a quality program now.
Yes. Also, a couple other thoughts about Marshall Faulk. So he initially was like a number 2 overall pick by the Colts before they knew
Mhm.
what they were doing.
Yeah.
I think he got traded or he signed with like the Rams like the year they won the Super Bowl, and that was also like Peyton Manning's like second year. I think they got Edgerrin James, and they started to kind of make the turn as a program at some point. Try not to cough myself. So yeah, I feel the tickle in the back of my throat. Not gonna sneeze. This
I
is
was fighting that so very hard.
you fought the good fight there, sir. But also like Marshall Faulk was under recruited out of high school. He's from Louisiana. He had to play at San Diego State, and
Mhm.
he's probably the greatest player of all time there. Probably alongside Donnell Pumphrey. Just
Yeah,
and
basically just running backs. Donnell Pumphrey, Rashad Penny, like it's just running backs exclusively at San Diego
I mean, if we want to
State.
talk about like the punt god, but let's not do that.
I mean, I saw an inordinate amount of Chiefs fans last night absolutely saying that he was awful last night. So I think he just kicks the ball far and doesn't actually do anything else.
That's fine. I mean, whatever. I mean, Steven Strasburg just throws the ball really hard. Probably the most overrated baseball player of all time.
Yeah. I mean,
Tony Gwynn was great.
his arm fell off multiple times, but
You don't throw like this. You don't throw with your chest. You throw with your arm.
That's right.
But also the fact is Marshall Faulk's cousin is Kevin Faulk, like LSU legend, former Patriots great.
Yeah.
He was like the guy who was like prior to Nick Saban, like he was like LSU football. Like I think he played for like Jerry DiNardo or something like that in the 90s.
Yeah.
So maybe you can use this to your advantage. Like, okay, I wasn't the most sought after recruit. I did come from a hotbed. I played at different places in the NFL. First stop was okay. Second stop was great. I just feel like you can kind of sell a very interesting angle with recruits and parents and everything like that. Again, what I guess we have to remember is like all these people that want to go play for Colorado didn't see Deion Sanders play. They just kind of know him from the NFL Network and just being Coach Prime.
Yeah.
But we all know who Marshall Faulk is.
We all know who Marshall Faulk is, and like to that degree, like we all know who Warren Sapp is. Someone else is like another NFL grade on his coaching staff. So like it permeates down. Like yes, Deion Sanders can sell himself better than most, I would say. Like he's very good at that. Like if you don't know who Prime was, he will remind you and show you. So like that's also a factor in this as well. But that's a lot of cachet. It's one of the reasons why like I'm not like over projecting what North Carolina is going to be in year one, but why I'm high on the prospects of Bill Belichick. Because you know what? People know who Bill Belichick is. Having that cachet of being like, hey, I'm Bill Belichick. Here's my Super Bowl rings. Like that's going to matter. And that's going to matter with this Colorado staff as well.
I may have picked the under with Colorado and North Carolina on Thursday's episode. Probably more on North Carolina because like people are going to be bullish, like, oh, Belichick's going to win like 10 games
Yeah.
in year one. Like that's not happening.
That's it's no, it's not.
No, you're going to win like
This is a long-term vision we're talking about here.
you're if you win like 7 games, I think that's a pretty good start. And
Make a bowl game. That's all
yeah,
I'm asking.
Colorado, I think they were 6.5. I think they're going to go like 6-6.
Yeah.
But again, that's so early. That's like FanDuel. Like they only put out odds for like 20 teams or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was just trying to get 10 over, 10 under, and that's where
Yeah, no, 100%. And like I'm with you on both of those, but like I also think that North Carolina sustaining and still being a bowl team is a win for them, and Colorado sustaining to the fact that they're not. I think your fear, if you're a Colorado fan, would be the idea that Colorado is going to be almost like Northwestern-y, Syracuse-y, and that like you have that pop year and then you pull back immediately. And
yeah.
like to the point where like you're missing a bowl game, you're winning 4 games. Like you don't want to that I don't think Colorado is in danger of that. I think they built the infrastructure enough, and Marshall Faulk is obviously part of that.
And last thing you want to do is kind of be like rival Arizona, where they won 9 games 2 years ago and they won three
Yeah.
games this past year, and it's like, but yeah, I think Colorado is in good shape. I think Deion Sanders is going to be there for a while. I think
Yeah.
he just likes it, and
I,
if
I
he's bringing,
weirdly enough, I really think he does like this. I don't like
mm,
I enjoy talking about college football. You could not pay me to coach college football. It sounds like an awful job.
no, it's a lot. It's just really stressful. Probably got to be just a Coca-Cola sober the whole time, which I mean he is, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, not for me.
No, not for me. And I got a question for you. Do you think a depressed person could make this? I'm trying, Jennifer. Moving on to our next topic. What in God's green earth did Rob Ryan do at his completely unhinged USC press conference? I believe he's a linebackers coach. This is the long-haired twin brother of Rex Ryan, longtime NFL defensive coordinator,
Oh,
defensive
former
coach.
Cowboys DC, lest we forget.
Yeah, been with the Saints. Last time I think he coached in college was in the late '90s at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
he was talking about knowing Jaden Maeva's cousin, talking about renting a car in Hawaii, walking to and from the podium. It's I just would be embarrassed to be a USC fan right at this point. This is just like this is not going to end well. Maybe he'll help with the X's and O's, but it just seems like this is Lincoln Riley jumping the shark, dude.
So I'm gonna zig when you're zagging here
Okay.
because I'm not saying that this wasn't the ramblings of a madman, because it absolutely
Yeah.
was. At the same time, I think USC needs that a little bit, because I think one of the things that hurts Lincoln Riley and hurts USC in their current iteration is they're so self-serious, man. Like everything
Yeah.
about them is we're supposed to be USC, we're supposed to live up to the brand, we're supposed to fight on, like we're supposed to be this, that, and the other. And they get so caught up in that I think they get in their own head about it, quite frankly. You know who's not in his own head, clearly based on this press conference? Rob Ryan. Rob
No.
Ryan's not like Rob Ryan's on another freaking planet right now. And like I think that they might need that to not just like add some levity to the situation, but also like just to not take themselves as seriously as they have been. Like, am I saying that Rob Ryan's going to be the guy to change USC football for the better? No.
No.
But I am saying like it could make it feel a whole hell of a lot better than it otherwise could have.
That's a very astute point. I think he does make it a little more fun. I think back to like when they were really good under Pete Carroll. I mean, Pete Carroll's a fun guy.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you look at some of the other assistants on his staff. I mean, Norm Chow was kind of old and crotchety, but that was kind of his thing. Obviously, we know Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian are a lot of fun. We know Coach O's a lot of fun. Like they've had people that were in that program of note who went on to do tremendous things because USC when USC was like dynastic when we were younger, like they were fun, they were loud, they were brash, they were kicking some serious tail, and that's kind of like what perceived glamour programs like USC and Miami and Texas have to give off. But like anytime they're good, you have like the blue collar dudes. You've got like the Rainbow Lagas and the guys playing in like the Michael Irvins of the world. There's
Yeah.
just guys who are just about the Troy Polamalu. Trying to think, Quentin Jammer. Like you had people like that just getting after it. But I think that's a good point though. He kind of makes it more fun, but he might also be on another planet. He might think he's back on the Arizona Cardinal staff with his late dad and brother, just eating good and plays by the pound.
God, good and plenties are terrible. Are you a licorice guy?
I am. So
Oh God. See, I can't do it. It's just it's not my flavor profile. So I can't be doing the good and plenties, but hey, more for you.
no, I figured like, vinegar based things, licorice. That does not seem like it's a Cody thing. If you know me, it's like if it's cheese or dairy. No, I'm not. It's like
And I'm all about the cheese and dairy. The only vinegar-based thing I like is vinegar-based barbecue sauce, not mustard-based, vinegar-based. There is a difference. And I do like a nice like vinegar-based barbecue sauce as a good North Carolinian that I am.
yeah.
But no, so back to Rob Ryan and off of the licorice and vinegar points. That that's the off-season content that you come to False Start for right there. But no, like I'm not sure Rob Ryan is going to dramatically change or help this defense, but I also do think that in addition to adding a fun factor to it, to adding some levity to the situation, which is frankly not a very levity filled situation right now in Southern California, I do think that Rob Ryan, like, I don't know what he is as a defensive coordinator, but also he's not going to be the biggest voice in the room. I think being one of the voices in the room, getting new ideas in there, that's also at least has upside. I'm not saying it's going to work, but it at least has upside.
Man's had a lot of jobs.
Yes, 100%. He's seen some things.
God, he's what worked at Oklahoma State, Arizona Cardinals, Washington, Dallas, New Orleans. That's what I can rattle off the top of my head at this point. I'm sure they're missing other ones.
I mean, to be clear, he was bad at a lot of those places
Yes,
too,
he
but
was.
he's been there.
He's been around there, he's seen stuff. I mean, there's journeymen out there we like, we love the Josh McCowns and the Ryan Fitzpatricks of the world, and
Yeah.
they were bad a lot of places too. Maybe McCown more than Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick's kind of
Yeah, I mean,
good.
yeah, Fitzpatrick had his moments. McCown was just there.
Yes, he was more concerned about his haircut.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I
And
mean, in fairness, his hair's always looking good.
it is looking good. And Ryan Fitzpatrick was concerned about times tables and getting his kids to go to bed.
Yeah, Harvard graduate. Did you know he went to Harvard, Bueller?
Did you know that did you know that Matthew Stafford and Clayton Kershaw went to high school together?
Did you know that Jeff Samardzija also played football at Notre Dame?
Did you know that Jason Tatum and Matthew Kachuk were middle school buddies?
We're changing lives here because no one's ever heard any of this before.
No. Did you know that Ted Williams and Bob Feller fought the Germans in World War II? Could you imagine how good their stats would have been if they didn't miss like 4 years in their prime? Holy
I
hell.
I actually saw a Ted Williams stat that's impossible to believe, but is apparently true. From 1941 to 1946, which is when he played I think he played like 2.5 seasons and then spent the rest fighting in World War II. Over that span, he's played more games than Anthony Rendon has over the past 5 years.
Anthony Rendon. Talk about somebody who hates his job.
I can't imagine hating my job if I was getting paid as much as that man.
You know who Anthony Rendon would be if he was in Parks and Rec?
Who's that?
Bobby Newport.
Oh my God.
Or he's begging for Henry Winkler to give him some money, like John Ralphio
John
Saperstein.
Ralphio, yeah.
uh, I don't
Just
even
like
know
trying
what
to get the insurance payments, walking into the Angels facility with the neck brace.
I got run over by a Cybertruck. Dude, I don't even know what like Ben Schwartz's like hair looks like. I know he's Jewish, but like, it's not as ridiculous as what it is it?
No, like I think he like basically just grew it out, is what it boils down to. Like he was probably like, I need a haircut, but I'm not gonna get one, and so I'm just gonna do that because like his normal hair is like no, typically a shorter version of the John Ralphio haircut, but that's a pretty normal haircut.
Yeah. It's like also Nick Offerman's hair is not as like high or as
Mhm.
tight.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to him and losing his mustache with James Harden and the Doritos commercial or
Oh
Pringles,
my
I think.
God. Yeah, it's so good.
Eugene Levy's eyebrows
Yeah,
frightened the place.
twin commercials there. Pringles and Little Caesars having the same idea.
We're all the same, dude.
We live in a simulation. It's fine.
That was bad. Also, shout out to Lasmo not making it back home.
Exactly.
Dude, I saw that like guy out there, like, who's this Sonic looking dude hanging out with Totino's pizza rolls, and then the hot dog in a suit guy from I Think You Should Leave just says like, yeah, we weren't really friends. I don't let this dork kill you.
It's great stuff. Great stuff.
I think my favorite commercial though was the Dunkin' one at the beginning with Jeremy Strong just hanging out in a vat. He's like, I'm getting into the role.
Mine was Harrison Ford making me want to buy a Jeep really badly.
Yeah, the Arizona State podcast is like, is he like retiring? Does he realize he's old now?
I don't know, man. TV recommendation for you in the Arizona State podcast, Shrinking on Apple TV Plus. Incredible show. The wife and I just fired it up, and it's really good. Harrison Ford's actually really good in it, mostly because he's playing a crotchety old man, which is what he is at this point.
Yes, I think it's hilarious. He grew up in uptown Chicago, where the old fan sided office was, and that area is that's the equivalent of where the raccoons live in Pawnee. That area is frightening. You walk in, you're like, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, you gotta go down to Wrigleyville to get to Eagleton.
Yes, yeah, I was very much an Eagletonian, but we got absorbed because we kept putting HBO out there.
That's right.
Uh, but dear frozen yogurt, you are the celery of desserts. Be ice cream or be nothing. 0 stars. Let's go to I saw the line here with our fourth topic. Initially, like I think it's the early Texas Ohio State line suggests that we shouldn't trust Arch Manning, just yet. I think Ohio State's laying 3.5 at home. We've also got some other lines here as well that I think are intriguing. So I'll just rattle a few of them off,
Yeah.
all of them that was listed, and let's just talk. No, Iowa State and Kansas State. K-State is laying 3.5 in Dublin for Farmageddon. We've obviously talked about Texas and Ohio State. Alabama is laying 8.5 at Florida State. Clemson is laying 2.5 at home versus LSU for the Battle of Real Death Valley. Auburn, who doesn't play Baylor very often, which I found that to be shocking, they're laying a point and a half in Waco. Georgia Tech laying 4.5 at Colorado in the Battle of 1990. Syracuse is not expected to do very much versus Tennessee and Atlanta as the Vols are laying 14.5. Similar thing with South Carolina laying 9.5 versus Virginia Tech in the Big Body Bends. Notre Dame laying 2.5 at Miami. Your North Carolina Tar Heels are laying 2.5 at home versus TCU, and then Ohio State's laying 5.5 at Michigan. Anything? I guess let's start with Texas, and we'll kind of just work through some of these.
Yeah, so I'll start with Texas. My early inclination is that I don't agree with this line, and it because even if you don't believe in Arch Manning, I have more answers about the Texas roster as a whole than I do the Ohio State roster. Like, I understand Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs are as good as advertised, and I'm not diminishing them at all. Outside of those two guys, you got a hell of a lot of questions that you've got to answer about this team. You're
Yeah.
losing, I believe, three, if not four, starting offensive linemen. You're losing basically your entire defensive line. You're losing two starters in the secondary, I believe. You're losing both of your starting running backs. You're losing Will Howard. You're turning the keys over to a quarterback battle this offseason with Julian Sayin as the presumptive favorite. But you have a lot of questions. With Texas, hell, you could argue that their offensive skill positions are going to be better. Like, you're bringing back Ryan Wingo, you're bringing back like CJ Baxter will be healthy, but I also believe you're bringing back Quintravion Wisner as well. So like you have a stable backfield. You are losing some on the offensive line, but hey, you know what? Just like Ohio State, Texas has recruited well. Like these teams, like I would have this line much closer to a pick 'em if you're me, and I think like I I have more certainty with Arch Manning, even if I don't think it like even if you don't believe Arch Manning's ceiling is what it was billed as when he was a recruit, you still know more what he is than you do with anyone that's going to be starting at quarterback for Ohio State. And like so like I would have this line a lot closer.
Yeah, I would take Texas getting whatever it is at that point, even though like at the end I'd probably say maybe Ohio State wins because it's in
Yeah.
Columbus.
Yeah.
But like you bring up a great point there. For as much as we wonder if Arch Manning can really throw it, we haven't seen Julian say, I don't know, play. So like
Right.
you're losing like all sorts of people off of last year's team. Jack Sawyer, JTT. Yeah, you still get Jeremiah Smith back. You still got Caleb Downs, and then I don't
Yeah,
know.
Carnell Tate, I think, like is
Carnell
coming back.
Tate's yeah
Yeah, but
back.
like
I know he's missing a guy there. Yeah,
you've got to get those guys the football, and we don't know if Julian Sayin can do that. Quite
right.
frankly, I think Julian Sayin's probably pretty good. He was a five-star, went to Alabama, and then transferred to Ohio State with the intent of probably starting in 2026. So like, not worried about Julian Sayin, but like until I see it, I can put a question mark on it for sure.
And then also with Ohio State, you got to replace Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly. I mean,
Yeah, 100%.
with Texas, you still have Nick Pete Kwiatkowski and then AJ Milway just quarterbacking it with and Sarek. It just there's a little bit more continuity, and I think it's crazy that like we're getting this game in the non-conference. I think we win as fans. As a whole, I'm really excited for it. Don't know when it is because I haven't figured that out with the schedule yet, but I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, no, and kind of piggybacking off of that, a game that I'm equally as excited for, like I think is probably on the same caliber, even though I don't think it's getting talked about in the same way. LSU Clemson.
Yeah,
Uh, Going to be a hell of a game. I think Clemson being favored is probably the right move. Kind of like again, when I'm looking at these look ahead lines, the things that I come to are basically what questions do I have? Clemson's returning a lot of what they
yeah.
had last year, and we saw them kind of peak at the end of that last season. So like I think that's probably Clemson is the more sure bet there. Whereas LSU, yes, you have Nussmeier returning. Yes, you like, but you're replacing a lot on the offensive line, and you brought in a lot on the defensive side of the ball. But at the same time, we don't know how that's going to gel. We don't know if that's going to be gelling by week one. And so like Clemson is the right. I think like that line is way more right to me than the Ohio State Texas line. But in terms of games that I'm excited for, like I that those two games are appointment viewing.
Oh, no question. And yeah, Clemson's the right side there. I think we're both really high on what Clemson can do next year. You might be higher on LSU than I am, but like LSU just has so much variance. Like they could win the SEC or they could go 7-5.
Yeah, I mean, like legitimately, they could win a national championship and they could go
Yeah.
7-5. Like those, both of those things are on the table.
Whereas like Clemson's like the worst they're gonna be is like 9-3. The best
Yeah,
they're gonna do is be like a Final Four team and Cade Klubnik wins or finishes runner up for the Heisman. Some that's within the realm of possibility.
absolutely, 100%. And like, yeah, I think I am circling this year, and to be clear, I take no joy in this. You know, I'm not a big Clemson guy.
No,
Like as a North
no,
Carolina fan,
neither am I, but that's
yeah,
okay.
but like I think this is we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Like I think this is a year where Dabo Sweeney looks at everyone and is like, I think you forgot who I am, and I think he reminds a lot of people who he is.
I'd probably throw Clemson in a bucket of about eight teams that I think could win a national
Mhm.
championship. I think that the stuff's lining up for them.
I think
I,
like honestly, you mentioned Penn State, Ohio State, and Texas as like locks. I wouldn't call Clemson a lock necessarily, but like I think they're tier 1B, like in terms of like lock. Like I
yeah,
think they're in the same conversation as a Georgia, honestly, in terms
yeah,
of their playoff viability.
yeah. Georgia, Oregon's
Mhm.
probably there, Notre Dame, and then really depending on how you feel about like, I'm pretty high on Tennessee and I'm pretty high on Arizona State, but there's other teams that are like right there too.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I mean, like that's much different than we were talking about Clemson going into last season, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, we were like they're not making it to Charlotte, and they did, and they
They did, and
won.
they won, and then they made the playoff. So we're wrong every now and then.
Yes. I don't think there's really much I got to say about Ohio State Michigan line. I just don't really feel like it's just who cares? Just beat Michigan, Ohio State, forget it.
Michigan minus 2.5 until proven otherwise. That's what I gotta say.
I think that's fair. The one that there's two that I really want to talk about before we move on. I want to talk about Notre Dame, Miami, and I want to talk about South Carolina, Virginia Tech.
Mhm. Okay, so give
With
me the Notre Dame Miami thoughts.
I'm really down on Miami this year. I feel that like they're asking way too much out of Carson Beck. I kind of feel that he's going to be asked to carry a lot of what he did similarly did last year at Georgia. I think it's good that Shannon Dawson didn't leave to go be
Yeah,
the Ohio State OC for whatever that's worth. But like Miami does recruit well, but it still seems to be very portal centric.
yeah,
It's not as gross as it can be with like, for example, like Ole Miss or Florida State, where they have a little bit more fluctuation. But last year felt like the year that Miami needed to
yeah,
win the ACC. And right now, like I'm looking at the Hurricanes, like a class below Clemson. They're in that same group with Louisville, who I'm really high on, Georgia Tech, who you're really high on, I'm pretty high on too.
hmm
We'll see how we feel about the SMUs and the Syracuses of the world in that. But like, I just kind of feel like I'm kind of bullish on what I saw out of Steve Angeli. I kind of excited about what he can do. And I don't know. I feel like as long as Marcus Freeman puts out good vibes, their name's going to be a 10-win team in perpetuity.
I'm hammering Notre Dame on this. This is a Notre Dame hammer spot for me because everything you just mentioned with Miami, I share that sentiment. Like that, they do recruit well, but if you recruit so well, where are the results? Because I haven't quite seen them at the level that you're promising me with the level you're recruiting at. Like, I don't think this coaching staff is anything great. But also for this game specifically, can Carson Beck throw the football? Because that's not a guarantee at this point. The dude just underwent elbow surgery. We don't know if he's going to be able to throw come week 1 of the 2025 season. So,
No.
like, you're telling me that I'm going to get Notre Dame in the building with Angeli, who has mild experience, or CJ Carr, who is a former 5-star recruit. Like Notre Dame has options. You're bringing back Jeremiah Love. Your offensive line has taken some hits in the portal, but at the same time, still going to be a quality unit for you. The defense is bringing a lot back of guys who were forced into action because of injuries. Like, this is going to be a damn good Notre Dame team. And Miami, I'm not sure what they bank on going into next season. I think you're probably right. They're putting a lot of stock in Carson Beck. Monetarily, we know that they are putting a lot of stock in Carson Beck. And man, that has like the potential to be an all-time backfire if like he's not the same quarterback that he was post-injury.
I know he took a lot of money to go to Miami and everything like that, but like, unfortunately, he's going to get scapegoated, and so is Shannon Dawson. It's going to
Yeah.
be Mario Cristobal's problem.
Exactly. 100%. Like Mario is the true Teflon Don of Miami if we really want to boil it down like that.
Yeah, that's true. I may talk about him here a little bit later. I guess like the last one I had, I mean, I think the Alabama Florida State line, like just looking at it, like just really shows that nobody trusts Florida State anymore. Don't really trust Alabama that much. I'm really concerned about
I don't
Caleb.
trust Alabama, but I trust them more than I do Florida State. That's for sure.
And I guess like the South Carolina Virginia Tech line of South Carolina 9.5. I think we're both really high in the Gamecocks next year. We're going to talk about them in a little bit, but I think it's also just shows that like Brent Pry is really on the hot seat.
Yeah.
And after really barely, like you needed to win Commonwealth to get to a bowl game. In a game where I thought that, like, in a situation where I thought Virginia was trending up a little more, and I was rooting more for the Hoos to make it in over the Hokies.
Yeah.
Like, Brent Pry might be one of the bigger names to be let go. Like, I would venture to guess this is his last year there because everyone's like, oh, he's going to recruit the Tidewater region. Oh, he's the Penn State defensive coordinator. Well, Manny Diaz is already better than you.
Mhm.
Tom Allen's already better than you. We're going to see Jim Knowles be better than you. It's just like you're getting erased from all this. And then you're going up against the South Carolina team. Interestingly enough, South Carolina, Shane Beamer going up against his alma mater, whereas his dad was an icon. Like Virginia Tech hasn't been that since
Mhm.
Frank Beamer was there with Bud Foster. But I think that that game is going to be ugly. And
Yeah.
I think South Carolina wins like something like 31-7. And like we're putting like LaNorris Sellers like in the early Heisman race.
No, I'm 100% with you. And Brent Pry was my big takeaway looking at that line as well, because my first instinct was, well, South Carolina is going to cover that. And then I thought about the implications of what that means, which South Carolina covering a spread of 9.5, that means you're winning by, at minimum, double digits.
Yeah.
And if you're Virginia Tech having correct me if I'm wrong, but Virginia Tech had the opportunity to hire Shane Beamer, if I'm not mistaken, when they hired Brent Pry.
I think so. He would have been on I guess he would have been on Lincoln Riley's staff at that point.
Yeah,
But like, well, Beamer's been to a lot of different places. He's coached at Georgia, he's coached at Oklahoma, South Carolina. So he's crossed paths with Riley, Smart, and Spurrier, who I think is probably
but
more of his mentor than like his even his dad in some
yeah,
capacities. But like, I think the opportunity was there, and they didn't go in that
and you didn't
direction.
do it. Like it's the like, and now seeing what Shane Beamer has become, we're going to talk a little bit about Shane Beamer here in just a second. But like seeing what Shane Beamer has become at South Carolina and like the way he's elevated, and now you have Brent Pry over here who is pissing down his leg, for lack of a better term, like at Virginia Tech. Like you had the chance for not just the good vibes hire of, yeah, we're bringing Beamer ball back to, Blacksburg, Virginia. Like that's the easiest sell job in the world from a PR standpoint. Like you don't have to work, like PR guy's going to cash a check and not have to do a whole lot of work with that. But at the same time, now you're seeing that Beamer's also a damn good football coach and you missed out on that opportunity. And now like you had like, frankly, Shane Beamer at this point has graduated above what Virginia Tech is, because Virginia Tech has declined and Shane Beamer has raised his stock so high.
100%. And Shane Beamer, like I said, like if Kirby Smart ever leaves, that's the guy I would probably want to bring in. I think he's just the ultimate CEO type. Again, he's cut from the exact same cloth, though. It's what made Dabo Swinney and Urban Meyer so great. Like
Yeah.
receivers who don't really call plays, but they're just master motivators. That's that's the type of coach. If they're an offensive minded guy, that's kind of what I'm hoping they'd be, as opposed to like, here's my playbook and be a
Yeah.
nerd like
The
Liam
the
Cohen.
Jimbo Fishers of the world hold like coming with you with the the manifesto of playbooks.
Just because I write doesn't mean I like to read, and just
Yeah.
because we're doing Parks and Rec doesn't mean like. Also, I felt bad they dedicated a library to Leslie Knope, and she hates libraries but loves binders.
Oh God, the irony of that show is beautiful.
Who would have made a really good Leslie Knope if they would have not gone with Amy Poehler?
Who's that?
Drew Barrymore.
Oh, that would have been good. I like that. Like
Yeah.
if it was like made in like the mid '90s, like that'd have been killer.
Yes, the mid '90s. Ron Swanson of the mid '90s. That would be Jeff Goldblum. Just Jeff Goldblum.
Would have been a different role, but would have been still quite good.
I mean, it's just him and like living in a it's just Jurassic Park. Okay. Yeah, that was this show's off the rails. I'm also really excited for Farmageddon. I'm kind of on the other side of it. I like Iowa State more, but K-State's got the teeny bopper king himself, Avery Johnson and Chris Kleiman. So I'm
That's
really excited for that game.
no, I mean that's gonna be a really good one. It's a treat to see Farmageddon early in the season because obviously that's normally a mid to late season matchup that we get. So it's gonna be fun to see it across the pond, the actual pond, not across the United States.
They're going to run out of Busch Light in 3 minutes.
Oh my God, yeah. No, 100%. Like Kansas and Iowa, like you're going to Ireland to drink, nothing else.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother. But like like I said, it ain't government work unless you have to do it twice. Let's do some talk portal to me. I guess this is it. Shane Beamer played a huge role in South Carolina being able to keep LaNorris Sellers and edge rusher Dylan Stewart from entering the portal. He and his staff were very proactive about it. It was like, we're going to put forth the right compensation. Again, he went out and recruited these guys. Stewart might have been a more higher recruit than Sellers at that point. I think also getting Sellers' brother in South Carolina probably helps too.
Hmm.
But like, there are teams out there that could have, like, the Georgias and Oregons are probably hunting for both of them.
Oh
And
yeah.
this is like, this is a guy who got what Sellers and Stewart to commit to South Carolina. Like last year, we thought South Carolina wasn't going to make a bowl game, and it was going to be it for Shane Beamer.
Yeah. No, I mean I think that one of the things that we're starting to give Shane Beamer credit for that we didn't previously and that we discounted is I look back I look back at the Spencer Rattler move. And like we looked at it and it was kind of an easy punchline because Spencer Rattler obviously didn't work out at Oklahoma the way people thought he was going to as a recruit. And we looked at that team and like the offensive line wasn't necessarily there. Like that team was a mess, for lack of a better term. But Spencer Rattler played really well, and Shane Beamer got the best out of that kid and like put him on a trajectory to get a shot with the Saints, to where the Saints are actually like playing him in meaningful games. Didn't work out well, but like that he wouldn't have been in that position if it wasn't for someone like Shane Beamer. And I think that really laid the groundwork for what we're seeing from South Carolina now. The ability to go out there and be like, hey, I know that this might not necessarily be a national championship winning team or a even a bowl team with Spencer Rattler, but I'm going to start to like stabilize things across the board. And when you start to stabilize things across the board, when you do hit on guys like LaNorris Sellers, when you do hit on guys like Dylan Stewart, you have the ability to keep them because you have a stable infrastructure, whether that's with the NIL collective, whether that's with just the program that you're trying to sell them on. He stabilized things in a way that I don't think we at the time really recognized.
He also hit on Kyle Kennard coming over from Georgia
Hmm.
Tech and Rocket Sanders coming over from Arkansas. Rocket Sanders was probably a bigger name at that point, playing at a bigger program, had a really good success. And then Kyle Kennard made like, that guy's going to be a top 40 pick. Like that
Oh yeah,
guy's, I love to,
dude's good. He's good at
I,
football.
I love to see him on my team. I know he'd probably love to see him on your team too, man.
Yeah, would not hate it at all. Honestly, either of the South Carolina defensive linemen that are going to be top 50 picks, TJ Sanders or Kyle Kennard, you're welcome in Dallas anytime.
Yeah, I know. Kyle Kennard grip right across the river from me. I guess no, Sandy Springs. So
There we
that's
go.
yeah, yeah. But I think like with Beamer is it was weird. Like this was his first job as a head coach at South Carolina. This was a job, for lack of a better word, that was cursed.
Hmm.
Like since what Paul Dietzel left LSU, he left LSU to go to Army and then finished at South Carolina back in the 50s.
Yeah.
This is the like Billy Cannon's head coach back in the day. Every other like head coach, like this is the last time they were a college head coach,
They were basically like a farm upstate. Like that's where you send like your dog when you're going to put it down.
Yeah, they're also the drummers of Spinal Tap.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, his last job for like, I mean, Will Muschamp's never going to be a college head coach again. Steve Spurrier, Lou Holtz, like, and then there's some really bad stuff pre Lou Holtz. Like, I don't even want to know. Like South Carolina, when they first joined the SEC, they were hot garbage.
It was bad. It was not good.
But Beamer kind of goes in there and he's like, I learned from the head ball coach. I've got good coaching chops here. I've crossed paths with a lot of good people. South Carolina's got a rabid, passionate fan base. They want this a lot. I think the challenge is like your two biggest rivals are Clemson and Georgia, and
Yeah, I mean
that's
not
it.
not not the position you want to be in for sure.
And then you throw Florida and Tennessee out there too. It makes you want to level up, and you're always playing like the hunter sort of thing. But like I mean, they've had a Heisman winner. They've had, George Rogers back in the day. I don't know if they ever won a national title, but like they've had some really great players over the years, like when we were in college, like
Hmm.
Jadeveon Clowney, Stephon Gilmore, Alshon Jeffrey,
I
Marcus
was
Lattimore,
about to say
yeah,
Marcus Lattimore. Yeah.
Stephen
Poor,
Garcia,
poor
Connor
dude.
Shaw.
Marcus Lattimore's knees, man. If God, if he'd have been healthy, he was so damn good.
I know, man. But like we're starting to get guys like this at South Carolina again that this I mean, I have them making the playoff. You have them making the playoff. Andy
Mhm.
Staples has them making the playoff. If the SEC gets four teams in, they might be one of them.
No, they going into the 2025 season, it honestly feels like they might be this year's iteration of Ole Miss in that
Yeah.
like I'm not and not that they're going to miss the playoff in the way that Ole Miss did, but in the same way that like this is a program that obviously until 2024 hadn't really been in the playoff conversation, but they've leveled up and like this is their year. This is kind of the time frame where you need to make it happen and like everything the opportunity is absolutely there for you to be able to do that. And so like it feels weird putting a playoff or bust expectation on a program like South Carolina, but they like Beamer has done enough of a good job where it doesn't feel far-fetched. Like it doesn't feel out of character. Like it feels like, yeah, this is where this South Carolina team should be going into the 2025 season.
Yeah, like they're kind of looking like what we thought Ole Miss and Miami could be last
Hmm.
year,
Yeah.
but they're probably closer to Tennessee or probably going to take Indiana's spot because
Yeah.
I'm a little apprehensive at the Big Ten getting four teams in next year. It might be Illinois because I mean I think that's the team people are really getting high on here.
Yeah.
Maybe Illinois or South Carolina. Maybe one of them ends up wearing the satin kimono. Who
I mean,
knows?
let me ask you this because it's something I've been tossing around. Do you think it's realistic to think that South Carolina could win the SEC? Like, do you think that they could challenge a Texas, a Georgia at atop the SEC?
Potentially. I don't think their schedule's that difficult. I think it's not going to be like as daunting as like Florida or Georgia's is,
Yeah,
but I don't think it's going to be as soft as like Texas or Tennessee's is.
right.
But like you look at like who you lost to last year. I mean, you came up dead versus Ole Miss. I think that flips.
Hmm.
You could
Yeah.
beat Alabama. You could beat LSU. Clemson's going to be really hard, but again, that doesn't matter because it's not a conference game. You don't play Georgia. I don't think you could beat the snot out of A&M. I think A&M is going to be really good again.
Yeah.
It's difficult to kind of figure like who can really win the SEC. I think the default people are like, well, Texas, if not Texas, Georgia, if not one of those two. Then you get to that point where you're like, maybe it's South Carolina, maybe it's Tennessee, maybe it's LSU, maybe it's you're in the top half of the conference where I think if you are that, you can realistically do it.
So you mentioning Palmetto has me really excited for that matchup because I hadn't really thought about that we're gonna end the season with South Carolina Clemson again. And that's gonna be a good one. Gives me an idea for a future offseason segi. We should rank rivalry games based on how excited we are for this upcoming season. Like I think
Yes.
that's a really good idea that we could go in and like kind of dive into that.
Yeah.
But just putting a pin in that, just because I think that's something we should do. But no, you're 100% right. Like I think that there's enough uncertainty with the good, like the top teams in the SEC. You look at a Georgia, you look at a Texas, and like, yes, Texas has an easy schedule, Georgia has a tough schedule, but like, we still don't know what a full season of Gunnar Stockton looks like. We don't know what a full season of Arch Manning looks like. We don't know if Auburn or Florida are going to be able to turn around at that level. We're low on Alabama. Like, there is very much I'm not going to say there is a power void, but there is the potential for a power void. And I don't think many teams in the SEC are as set up to take advantage of that as South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, I would probably say the best quarterback in the SEC is LaNorris Sellers. I just think I mean, you may be higher than Garrett Nussmeier, but like
Yeah,
it's
I mean, I was
probably
going
it's
to
about
say
there.
it's a competition between those two, and I don't know who I would pick off the top of my head. Like, I would probably pick Garrett Nussmeier for the NFL, but in terms
Yeah.
of being a college quarterback, it's a toss up.
Yeah, you look at like who Garrett Nussmeier could be in the NFL. Justin Herbert, maybe.
Yeah,
Whereas if you're looking at like LaNorris Sellers, it's Cam Newton. So
yeah, right.
we know what that does. That guy did in college.
Yeah, and we also know what he did with in the NFL earlier in his career. Like people, I saw someone like absolutely like taking a dump on Cam Newton as like the Panthers quarterback the other day, and I'm like, these young folks do not understand. Like
No.
prime Cam Newton was just unstoppable. Like it was unbelievable to watch that dude play. And I know it was torturous for you, obviously in the
Yes.
NFC South, but like as someone who grew up in Panthers country and was always kind of anti-Panthers because I was a Cowboys fan for my entire life, and like that kind of just made me get annoyed that it was nothing but Panthers fans that I would see around me. Even I had to look at Cam Newton and be like, I mean, this is something we haven't seen in a long time. This dude is unbelievable.
Yeah, he was super special. The closest thing he probably got to that is Josh Allen now.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, Big
Yeah.
Big Ben a little bit was like it too, but
Yeah,
but
but Big Ben is intensely unlikable, so there's that.
that's true. People like Cam Newton, people love Josh Allen, and
Cam
only
Newton,
two of
Cam
them won
Newton,
MVPs.
yeah, that's a good point. MVPs, baby. Shouts to Josh Allen. The best Cam Newton tweet I've seen over the past year, honestly, one of the best tweets I've ever seen was someone took a picture of Cam Newton and he was, in his hat with the feather on it and had the glasses on and everything. And he was sitting in an airplane seat and someone said, Cam Newton's on my flight. And someone quote tweeted it and said, how do you know it's him? Like, it's just such a simple one, but like, God
I think
almighty.
back in the day, like when Wilt Chamberlain was kind of like post retirement or something with like the Lakers. He was like a 7 foot tall guy with like a pro in the 70s. And he's like, I'm trying to keep a low profile. He's wearing like a
Oh,
rainbow
yeah.
shirt, driving like like a lime green or red convertible with like a supermodel in the passenger seat and like two big floofy dogs in the back.
Low profile, baby. We got to keep it going.
You know, Cam Newton may have feather in his cap, but I've got wet hair. It's my gift to you. Yes, we're gonna finish the show with some just like Novocaine with Salacious Six Pack from Mouse Rat. Obviously, we can't do the song about wet hair because wet bears.
Wet bear.
Andy, the hair is not the thing you have to change. That's how Johnny Karate was born.
Incredible stuff.
But yeah, every like Mouse Rat song is like, let's just play open chords and just sing with a very guttural tone.
Mhm.
And it's about like life is crazy, you know it's hard.
It's
I
like
know
it's like Party Boy Pearl Jam, basically.
it's like let's make it dumber than Pearl Jam. Like I have this theory, like with grunge music, like there's like a every grunge band like basically suffices like a different group in high school. Like the jocks like Pearl Jam,
Yeah.
nerds like Soundgarden,
Yeah.
the the degenerates like Alice in Chains. Um, I guess the people who work who build cars, the greases they like Bush. Artsy kids like STP. And then the cool kids like Nirvana. There you go.
Oh God, it will not surprise you to learn that I'm an Alice in Chains guy. So, as a true degenerate.
Dude, I bought Rotten what is I got the MTV Unplugged one and then I got I think it's with the one with the jar on it. Jar of Flies, yeah.
Jar of Flies, yeah, good album.
We're gonna talk about that on this show. They're trying to make like the photograph of like they're talking about the cover for this. They got like kids. It's like, well, it was based on like an experiment that Jerry Cantrell did as a kid, where like also the kid was in there who hated it. It smelled like horses, and it was just a miserable experience. But it was a
Everyone
great
had a
photograph.
bad time.
Hey, no, no, no. Yeah, I'm gonna break my rusty cage and run with this. Let's start with the pit.
Yeah.
Who was the pit?
Oh, that's Florida State, baby. They fell into the pit, and they fell into the pit pretty hard after a 2-10 season. But you know, the pit does have a little bit of hope as a song, and I think there is hope that Florida State is not a 2-10 program, and generally that they can start to turn things back around. Not sure if that happens with Mike Norvell. We shall see, but they fell into the pit pretty hard.
That's great. So here's what I got. I got two in case we overlap. I was sitting there thinking, like, if there was any coach who would be sitting on a couch with broken legs, asking for pancakes and playing rock band,
Yeah.
Brett Bielema.
100%.
Bricks to go, give me a Shiner Bock.
That's right.
But like he was a great coach at Wisconsin, fell in the pit at Arkansas, the NFL for a little bit. And now he's coming out of the pit and doing really fantastic things in Illinois.
Honestly, Arkansas as a whole might just be the pick because it feels like every coach just goes there and flames out horribly.
And also the pit is Narduzzi land.
That's right. Oh my
Uh,
God.
my favorite Mouse Rat song is coming up next. Although I do love the pit. I love Minusball. Minusball is
Man, it
great.
smells a banger, dude. I would like this is actually a good song.
Yes. Every like Mouse Rat song is like, I know you're a baby and I was a baby too. Together we could both be babies, two babies of me and you. This song's about changing, apparently. And I went with a guy who doesn't change, and that's Lane Kiffin.
Never change, Lane. Never change.
Also, Brian Kelly is trying to change too, and he can't. So that's what I got for that.
Nah, the assistants are still valet in the cars, man. You know they are.
I coach the Packers. What are you talking about?
Oh my God. I went with Kurt Signetti in Indiana in this one because I know you've been changing talking to the Big Ten, but Indiana's been changing too. And Indiana, we think they're going to pull back a little bit, obviously, from what they did in 2024, but I still think they're a pretty clear, easy bowl team. I still think that the Indiana future under Kurt Signetti is quite bright. And so like I think the changes are going the right way for Indiana.
I respect that. I can get there. Two birds holding hands. What an analogy. It doesn't even make sense. It's so dumb. They don't even have hands.
Two birds holding hands, man. Uh, I went with Hugh Freeze and Jackson Arnold, two birds holding hands into the future, trying to get Auburn back to prominence, man. It doesn't make sense, but here we are. It's Hugh Freeze and Jackson Arnold.
That's sovereign for you. Just when you think it doesn't make sense, it works out. I went with Luke Fickle because I think running the air raid offense in Madison, Wisconsin is about as dumb as two birds holding hands.
Fair enough.
And also, I think Kalen DeBoer fits this trying to win with his kind of guys and went with Washington guys at Alabama. I'm just kind of starting to turn on Kalen DeBoer a little bit. But he's like
Yeah.
talking about people showing up to meetings on time and not wearing jewelry. They're making you wear dresses.
Yeah. It's very Yankees-esque culture that he seems like he's trying to institute down there. And let me tell you where that's not going to work is Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
No. Do you have any good bagels down here? Sir, this is biscuit country.
There's a Biscuitville right down the
Biscuitville, an unincorporated community. Probably your favorite 5,000 Candles in the Wind.
It's a banger, man. I can't help it. I went with the sentimental one on this one. Mike Leach, man. He's 5,000 Candles in the Wind. Like that's the dude that I think I don't want to speak for you, but I feel comfortable saying that at least for me and probably for you, like one of the guys who made me realize how fun this sport is and like made
Yeah.
me really fall in love with the sport more. So like I've always loved football, but like falling in love with the dumbness and the beauty of college football, like Mike Leach was definitely the one that did that. So fly fly little Sebastian.
Mhm. The last three celebrities I kind of got really sad and cried over them passing were Mike Leach, Kobe Bryant, and Chris Cornell. So that's
Yeah.
what you need to
Yeah.
know. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. I did not go that direction with this, by the way. So this is obviously an homage to Little Sebastian, the mini horse that was just a mini horse and captivated Pawnee because he was at a festival once in '87. So I was looking for like somebody who's a head coach that the fan base of his team really loves, but nobody else seems to understand or doesn't get it, like the Ben Wyatt of it all.
Yeah.
The two that I settled on for this were Lincoln Riley and Joey McGuire.
Like,
Just like he whinnied. What? What does this have to do with anything? But they sell a lot of sizzles too, and there's really good recruiters and stuff. So that's kind of where I went with
that's
that.
right. I love it, dude. That's incredible.
All right, remember this is the replacement for the wet hair song.
Yeah, yeah. So remember, this is where I have Lincoln Riley because of the first lines of the first verse. Remember when we first met, you gave me love I'll never forget. That's how it was when Lincoln Riley came to USC, man. Everyone was like, this is going to change USC football forever. This is going to get us back to a dynastic era. And remember, it has some sad undertones to it, and that's kind of where Lincoln Riley and USC are currently headed.
So I've got two really long tenured head coaches here because you and me together forever. That's Mike Gundy and that's Kirk Ferentz.
It definitely is, yeah, forever and ever, and still going.
Like Mike Gundy's been in the job since '05 and Ferentz since '99. I mean, who else has been like, I guess Kyle Whittingham, like '04, '04, '05. I can't think of anybody else who's been around that long.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time as well. Like, even like it's kind of weird. Like, time starts to like disappear when it comes to coaching carousels. Like, I remember, like, for I was doing some Super Bowl prep work, for interviews and stuff like that. And I went down a rabbit hole of Sean Payton. And like in my mind, Sean Payton was the head coach of the Saints for like 2 decades. You know what I mean? Before they parted ways. And like it was basically just a decade. And like it just felt like a lot longer. And so like even like long tenured head coaches that you think were there for forever, like in the grand scheme of things, they're not even holding a candle to like how long Ferentz and Gundy have been there.
Yeah, I think Peyton was head coach like 14, 15 years. That's about that. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess like the other coaches have been there for a long time. Off the top of my head, Dabo's been there a while.
Yeah,
Mark Stoops
Dabo's
has
getting
been
up
there.
there. Oh, I
Mark
forgot
Stoops.
about Stoops.
Um, and then I'm trying to think who's even been around for like a decade. It's there's not many.
Yeah, no, like it's weird, man. So much coaching changes all the time.
He's probably been in this job for a long time. Troy
Who?
Calhoun. Troy
Yeah,
Calhoun's
actually, yeah, Troy Calhoun's been there for a minute.
probably that probably means Jeff Monken probably too.
Yeah.
Um, Part of me still thinks Frank Solich is still the coach at Ohio U, and that's not the case. Also, welcome back, Winston Wilcox. We missed you, bud.
Welcome back, brother. Good to see you. Happy for the new dad out there.
Your dad definitely got the name wrong of the child, but we're not going to say that on there. But that's
Can't,
okay.
can't, can't we broke the W train apparently.
Yeah, www. That's okay. And last song on here, "Catch Your Dream." Who do you have for that?
This song's terrible. Let's be clear about that. Catch Your Dream's an awful song,
It's not good.
but Catch Your Dream, this is where I had Lane Kiffin, man. He's trying to catch his dream super hard and he's trying to make it happen, but yeah, you're in Oxford, Mississippi, man. It's not always going to work out your way, just like in Pawnee, Indiana.
I respect that. I got Kenny Dillingham. He's catching his dream of turning Arizona State from a sleeping giant into a powerhouse. And honestly, Bill Belichick, because I think he's Duke Silver. And he's catching his dream to be the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels because that's where his dad was coaching when he was a baby.
I thought his dream was to date a 24-year-old, but whatever.
She was throwing a lot of shade about 28-3. I'm like, you probably couldn't drive a car when that happened.
No, not even a little bit.
It's frightening. I mean, but it's okay. I mean, she's old enough to date Leonardo DiCaprio, but doesn't have enough time. She's gonna turn 25 here soon.
Yeah, that's why you just turned to Belichick early.
You gotta if you gotta be. I almost said something really inappropriate there, but could you imagine if somebody sent out that email and they were embarrassed? Oh, it's so embarrassing. No, you did it on purpose.
Are you doing that on purpose?
Oh my God. This was episode 149 of False Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter, the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. You can follow the show at CFB False Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. Yes, I was doing this by myself with that with like the different setup of like being sold like a cup, and I'm doing it, and like the thing across the thing is it's cutting in half, and nobody could see. So I had to really do it. I was like,
No, no 2.5-star reviews. We want the 5-star.
we have the fingers that we have.
That's right.
Um, would you have eaten at JJ's Diner?
Oh, 100%. Would have been there frequently.
Do you think the waffles are great dog laxatives? Do you think Remus or Huron would eat waffle?
Uh, Weirdly enough, Huron probably would. Remus likes eating the things that he's not supposed to eat, like his own crap. Like that's what Remus likes to eat. In turn, if you give him a treat, he's super skeptical about it. And like Huron's like, oh, a treat? Hell yeah, let me get this. So he would devour a waffle.
I respect that. Izzy just devours everything. Benji would he likes vanilla wafers, but you have to do three, so to put three waffles out.
I only eat in multiples of three.
The only thing with the show that I think they didn't have any closure on is I wonder what happened to Dennis Feinstein.
Dennis Feinstein vows to no man.
Uh, Jason Mantzoukas is like unbelievable. He's
He's so
Rafi. He's
good.
also yeah, I know you haven't watched The Good Place, but he plays Derek, and he's like a the equivalent of Siri, basically.
Oh God.
This is Derek.
Um, the I'm so one thing that I don't talk about too often because I understand how nerdy it is, but I'm a big mythology guy, like Greek mythology, like have always loved it, took mythology classes in college. And so Percy Jackson and all that jazz has always been a big interest to me. In the Disney Plus series that they're doing with Percy Jackson, Jason Mantzoukas plays Dionysus, but they've made him go sober, and it's the funniest thing in the world. Like he's just like pounding Diet Coke relentlessly and mad at everyone.
I don't know if you the NC State podcast watch Traders, but they have Tom Sandoval on there from Vanderpump, and he's clearly detoxing out there. And for first couple of episodes, he's just kind of like a loose cannon, and then he starts figuring out and he's getting good. And the people on the show are so bad that like he's the most likable character. It's like I'm rooting for him. I think they might kill him off in this episode. We'll see what happens.
I need to watch The Traders. It's been recommended to me because I am a big Survivor guy, and like I've heard it's basically Survivor but better and on steroids. So I'm all about it.
The Survivor people are cool. The Real Housewives people are pretty good. Real World people are interesting. The Big Brother people are the ones you need to watch out for because they're just agents of chaos.
I mean that show is an agent of chaos. I watched like one episode of Big Brother and it's like I'm super good on that.
How mad do you think George Orwell and the Earth is mad about that they took that name? They don't even like create a biography about him. He's like, no, don't. I my will do not write a biography about me ever.
Don't even think about it, frankly.
George Orwell is the Ron Swanson outside of Indiana, and this is false start.